I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. This month, Williamsburg, Brooklyn came alive with tradition and spirituality. Currents takes you back to the Feast of the Giglio.
Everybody really just has a sense of love for the parish, love for the feast, and really that translates as a love for our faith.
And rest, relaxation, and religion. Bishop DeMarcio explains how to keep the faith during the summer months when we go into the deep.
Hopefully, it can be a pleasant experience of worship. But deep down, it's our responsibility to make it good.
On a beautiful summer day in Brooklyn, Catholics paid homage to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and we were there.
So when we look at Mary, we can see the effect of grace in a human heart.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Well, how's this for a tradition? Gather a group of local Brooklyn strongmen, say about 130. Have them hoist a 3-ton statue of a saint on their shoulders while onlookers snack on Italian street food. Add carnival rides, Zeppeli vendors, and daily masses at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church, and you have the makings of a 125-year-old celebration that never gets old. On July 8th, at the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Williamsburg, the Festival of the Giglio got underway. Now, the long-standing tradition began in 1903. Nolani immigrants brought it over from Italy, and it traces its roots back to the 5th century. Now, some quick history here for you. The feast honors Italy's Saint Paulinus, who in the 5th century offered himself into slavery to save a young man from his diocese. Well, he then managed to escape, and upon returning to his hometown, he was showered with lilies, which in Italian are called gillies. Ever since then, the church-sponsored celebration pays tribute to Saint Paulinus with a giant tower equipped with a model of the saint. You have to see it to believe it. So we sent our cameras to Williamsburg to give you a first-hand look at the dancing of the Giglio.
Here we are in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the Italian section of Williamsburg. For over 125 years, we've celebrated the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Today is the centerpiece, really, the highlight of the entire feast is Giglio Sunday. And by that we mean that the Giglio and the boat are danced through the streets, and they reenact the 5th century pageant in which St. Paulinus saved the children of his town of Nola.
We've got wonderful food, we've got wonderful people, we've got wonderful vendors. It's a great place to be on a Sunday afternoon.
When Mount Carmel Parish was founded, a large number of the large part of the population that's here came from the town of Nola in Italy. And the actual Feast of the Giglio in San Paolino is celebrated there in Nola. So they brought their tradition from Nola with them to Brooklyn.
We bring Christian values into the street. With the Giglio, represents a lily, represents love, the love that we have for our saints and our parish, of course, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, #1.
This is my family's hometown in Brooklyn. This is the old neighborhood, old Italian neighborhood that my family comes from. And so I come and pay respects.
You have hundreds of people who come back every year. Some people moved out of Brooklyn to Queens, to Long Island, even further. They come back every year. It's really a part of their blood. It's a part of their family tradition. Their parents, their grandparents did it, their great-grandparents.
I've been here for the last 35 years. I do this. My whole family's done this. I couldn't go on without this.
Back at the turn of the century, in the late 1800s, the late 19th century, approximately 5 million Southern Italians from all over southern Italy, Sicily, Nola, Naples, came over to Brooklyn. And many of them kept their ties with the old world. Many of them still, to this day, have family that they keep in touch with in Nola.
On each structure, there are 98 lifters. Each corner has their own lieutenant that controls their corner. There are 2 structures, the Giglio and the boat. So there are 4 lieutenants on each structure, 8 altogether.
It's a great, exciting time because everybody has such enthusiasm. Everybody really just has a sense of love for the parish, love for the feast, and really that translates as a love for our faith.
I come here every year. I'm lifting next Friday for the Children's Giglio, and I love here at Mount Carmel in Brooklyn.
It's also wonderful when we have the processions that go into the neighborhood because it's really a matter of bringing the faith to the people who sometimes on their own can't come to the church.
And the Giglio Festival lasted almost 2 weeks, and yes, so did the celebrating. Stay tuned. There's more currents ahead. The day's top headlines on the other side of this break. Welcome back to Currents. In today's headlines, some changes for the church on the West Coast. Pope Benedict has accepted the resignation of Archbishop George Niederauer of San Francisco because he has reached the age of retirement and has selected Bishop Salvatore Cordileone of Oakland, California to succeed him. Niederauer was a bishop of Salt Lake City for 10 years before being appointed to the Archdiocese of San Francisco in 2005. Archbishop Cordileone served as an auxiliary bishop in San Diego from 2002 until 2009 when he was appointed Bishop of Oakland. In other news, the Pope is briefed on the VatiLeaks investigation. Rome Reports has more.
The VatiLeaks investigation is in its final stretch. Soon it will be known if the Pope's butler, Paolo Gabriele, will go to trial for having confidential Vatican documents. The commission in charge of investigating the leaks is made up of 3 cardinals, Arons, De Giorgi, and Tomko. On Thursday, they met with Benedict XVI to update the Pope on their findings. Judge Piero Antonio Bonet and prosecutor Nicola Baccardi were also present. Also there was Angelo Becciu, who's the third in command at the Secretariat of State. The Pope's personal secretary, Georg Gainswein, was also there, as well as Domenico Gianni, the commander of the Vatican's police force. The meeting also included Greg Burke, the Vatican's communications consultant. The Secretary of State, Tarcisio Bertone, was on vacation in northern Italy, so he did not attend. The Pope has now asked the Vatican's magistrate to continue working on the case meticulously. In about 10 days, the magistrate judge will announce whether the Pope's butler will face a trial or not.
And elsewhere, the president of Lebanon is fighting to ensure peace in preparation for the Pope's visit. Rome Reports has those details.
The Pope is scheduled to travel to Lebanon in September, but the question many ask is, will the war in neighboring Syria present a challenge? The Patriarch of the Armenian Catholic Church, which is based in Lebanon, says he's hoping a truce will be implemented during those days. Quite often, we do see conflicts along the border with Lebanon and Syria, so the president of Lebanon is working to ensure peace on both sides of the border. Even though the Pope's official itinerary was made public in July, several Catholic communities in Lebanon have been planning the visit for months now. Among that list is the Armenian Catholic Church, which has its headquarters in Lebanon. The people of Lebanon from all faiths, with just a few exceptions, are looking forward to the Pope's visit, especially because it follows the visit of John Paul II in 1997 because of the Synod. The Pope's trip will last roughly 55 hours, and even though it's relatively short, he will meet with key civil and religious representatives from that country. One of those gatherings will take place at the headquarters of the Armenian Patriarchate. The Holy Father will bless a memorial dedicated to Armenian monk Jacob Megapart, who was involved in the publication of the first Armenian language book back in 1512. It was a book of prayers that was published 500 years ago in Venice. Armenians would travel with this book, which came to be known as the Friday Book. The Pope's visit will close with a Sunday Mass celebrated in Beirut city center, where roughly 600,000 people are expected. Even people from Syria are expected to attend despite the country's turmoil. I hope nothing interferes with the Pope's visit. May Jesus, who is the King of all hearts, put peace in the Middle East, especially in Syria and Lebanon. It will be a historic visit where the Pope is not only expected to deliver the conclusions of the Synod on the Middle East, he's also expected to send a message of peace to all Arab countries.
And to Ohio now, where a chapel is removed from a city logo in response to a legal threat. The city of Steubenville announces that it will remove an image of the Franciscan University of Steubenville's chapel from its new city logo. This is in response to a threat with legal action from the Wisconsin-based Freedom from Religion Foundation. The group was unhappy with the fact that a cross and chapel were incorporated into a civic design. One individual that helped design the logo expressed his irritation regarding the situation. Mark Nelson stated that he found it, quote, very frustrating that one person or a small group can complain and ultimately change the city's logo. So what does one wear when meeting the Pope? Rome Reports has more on how to dress for Benedict.
When it comes to meeting the Pope, one could say fashion-wise, men have it a lot easier than women. Hitting the fashion mark can oftentimes be challenging. What one considers fashionable may end up raising someone else's eyebrows. The wife of Sri Lanka's president wore traditional clothing from her country when she met the Pope along with her husband. Yet some were surprised by the fact that she was showing her midsection during the meeting. On the other hand, Montenegro's First Lady followed protocol by wearing black clothing while meeting the Pope, but was the dress style maybe too old-fashioned? When the Pope went to Africa, Benin's First Lady wore colorful traditional clothing. But in this case, it wasn't so much what she chose to wear. Her body posture seemed to speak the loudest. Perhaps it was the intense heat that made her look a bit tired. But for some, it's not about fashion or posture, but mostly about following tradition. For example, Sweden's ambassador before the Holy See strictly followed her country's tradition by wearing this hat during the yearly ambassadors' meeting. Her pride in following tradition was quite obvious as she greeted the Pope with a big smile, and the Pope also seemed to enjoy it. Other situations may seem a bit odd or just interesting. For example, Queen Elizabeth held tight to her hand purse while meeting Benedict XVI, never leaving it out of her sight. But if one looks years back at her meeting with John Paul II, it's a similar scene, with her walking around with her purse. Everyone has their own sense of fashion, but perhaps one of the most surprising is the First Lady of Cameroon. She visited Rome for John Paul II's beatification ceremony with her trademark style of big red hair and thick makeup. Back in 2009, when Benedict XVI visited Africa, he greeted the president and his wife Chantal. She was quite respectful, but her style was just as loud. It was one of those rare moments when perhaps all eyes were not on the Pope, but on Cameroon's First Lady.
And finally tonight, Billy Graham has got Chick-fil-A's back. The fast food chain has been the center of controversy lately due to its president, Dan Cathy's public support for traditional marriage. Now, the public storm began when Cathy told the Baptist Press earlier this month that he was, quote, guilty as charged in supporting marriage between a man and a woman. In response, many cities are boycotting the chain, and in addition to Jim Henson pulling its children's toys. Chick-fil-A did make a friend in evangelist Billy Graham, though. Graham made a statement on Thursday in which he expressed his support towards Cathy and his beliefs. I've known their family for many years and have watched them grow Chick-fil-A into one of the best businesses in America while never compromising their values, he said. And he added that he plans to join Governor Mike Huckabee in Chick-fil-A Appreciation Day next Wednesday. Stay tuned. There's more currents after the break. Coming up, we go into the deep as Bishop DiMarcio explains how summer and spirituality go hand in hand.
There should be a law we're following. We should want to go to Mass, to be with the Eucharist.
Welcome back. Well, all you have to do is step outside and you know it's summertime. The heat and the humidity and the threats of thunder and lightning. Good weather for a vacation. Also a good time to remind ourselves that there is no vacation from our religious obligations. Our news director Ed Wilkinson talked with Bishop DiMarcio about summer and religion in this week's Into the Deep.
Bishop, nice to see you again.
Good to be here.
Here we are in the middle of summer, and
it's summer. Plenty hot.
People tend to relax in the summer, you know, and sometimes they might get a little lax about their church attendance. And let's be straight about this. The obligation to attend Mass is still there, even though it's summertime, right?
No, it's for sure. First of all, it's part of the Ten Commandments, and also part of the precepts of the church. And again, it should be a law we're following. We should want to go to Mass, to be with the Eucharist. Unfortunately, today, people have gotten a little bit off the wrong idea about the Mass has to be fulfilling and not going to a TV show or the movies or the theater. The Mass is worship. Hopefully, it can be a pleasant experience of worship. But deep down, it's our responsibility to make it good, you know? Certainly, you know, you talk to the young people, and say, oh, it's boring, you know, they're bored with everything. So when you have something like the Mass, which is unique, it's hard to get them to appreciate it. But all of us have to understand that the Mass is a responsibility. It's a great act of faith that we have to take very seriously. I remember Chesterton wrote this once. It was interesting. He said, when I go to Mass, and he's, you know, back in the last century, when Mass was not entertaining, he says, I find the most annoying priest I know, the one who fidgets during Mass and maybe isn't a good celebrant, because then I know it's up to me to make it an act of worship. I don't depend on the priest. Well, that's a paraphrase of what he said, but that's true. You know, it's not, you know, you be entertained. You're supposed to be worshiping yourself. You're supposed to put yourself into it. So that's we have to relearn, I think.
Right. I mean, people have to bring something to the altar themselves when they come in.
Exactly.
Also, just the way they comport themselves and the way they dress. I mean, again, sometimes in the summertime we become a little lax, right?
They're going to Mass.
I mean, we're not even talking about beach parishes. Sometimes people are coming in shorts.
Well,
and
flip-flops and shorts are not basic, unless it's a little kid, isn't appropriate for Mass. So you should dress up a bit. Most of the churches are air-conditioned, thank God. So it isn't a major problem sweating through a long, long Mass. But we've got to, people have to use their heads. I used to say, well, how would you dress in a doctor's office? Well, that doesn't work anymore. People go, you know, you wouldn't say where you're going. I mean, you know, you're not,
or the way you go to the theater. People don't dress for that either, anyway.
You can't. There's no parallel.
A lot of special events in the summertime, and you know, it's like, again, it's not a vacation, and we have a couple of big feast days. Our Lady of Mount Carmel is a big one for you.
That's right. Yeah.
I know you go to a number of places. You celebrate in Newark. You celebrate here.
Be 3 masses that day. One the day before in Newark, my old parish, Lady of Mount Carmel Parish. We have a healing mass that night. The next morning at Lady of Mount Carmel in Brooklyn, which is really the parish feast. They really celebrate it with outside processions, 2 processions, 3 processions, and Mass in all the languages. And then at night I'm going to the Carmelite Monastery. It's their feast day, obviously. So I'll have a lot of devotion to Lady of Mount Carmel that day.
And then in August we have the Feast of the Assumption.
That's right.
And that's a holy day of obligation, although I'm not sure if it is this year. I should have looked that up.
What is it, on Monday?
I think it's on a Monday, and it might not be a holy day, but that's an important feast also.
Very much so. When I was down in South Jersey in the Camden Diocese, they had a tradition. They called it the Wedding of the Sea, where the bishop would bless the ocean at actually 3 or 4 places. The most interesting was Atlantic City, where they would beach the boat. The lifeguards would beach the boat, and the bishop would crawl in, literally crawl in.
You would go out.
I would go out in the boat, and then you would throw a wreath on the sea with a blessing, you know, blessing the water on the feast day. Well, I don't know if I could do it today.
Maybe we could do that in Breezy Point.
About 10 years ago, I was able to jump in the boat, and you really would get kind of wet. You had to have an album, but underneath it was your bathing suit because you didn't come back dry. Those waves are pretty good out there.
Well, that's a tradition that hasn't found its way to our shores yet. And our seminarians, they don't take the summer off either. They have summer assignments, right?
They do. Most of them are doing either language work or they're in parishes, so they keep the formation going.
Good practical experience for them.
Yes.
Right. Well, enjoy the rest of your summer, Bishop.
I will.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be here.
And when we come back, we'll take another look at the Giglio Feast and how it appeals to more than just the people in the neighborhood. It's been 125 years and the Feast of the Giglio still awes and inspires. We'll look back as Williamsburg honored Our Lady of Mount Carmel.
She stands as really the model of a woman who was full of grace.
And And finally tonight, as we saw earlier in the show, for the 125th time, the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel celebrated the feast day of its patroness. Well, the historic feast in the Brooklyn-Williamsburg neighborhood lasted almost 2 weeks of very, very busy time. A total of 10 masses were celebrated at the Shrine Church. What made it even more special is it wasn't just the predominantly Italian parish community who turned out for the celebrations. Haitian Catholics from the diocese who have a very strong devotion to Our Lady of Mount Carmel also participated. And of course, we were there covering one of the mid-afternoon masses.
Our Lady of Mount Carmel, to me, is a very, very special feast because we are honoring the mother of our Lord Jesus Christ. And this is a tradition of this parish for 125 years.
Today's feast goes back to the story of the prophet Elijah, where the prophet Elijah makes a sacrifice on Mount Carmel. And his sacrifice is accepted and not those of the 150 pagans. Given the sacredness of Mount Carmel in Israel, a group of monks formed a monastery there and took the title of the Carmelites.
The neighborhood has changed, and the new inhabitants have accepted our traditions as we accept their traditions.
So good it is to see you this evening at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday. It tells me something. It tells me that you love the Blessed Virgin Mary. And this rejoices me, because Mary reflects the glory that flows from the heart of Jesus.
It's so nice to have Bishop Saint-Saric today saying the Mass here with the people from Haiti that are around.
It's always great to welcome any of the bishops here. There's certainly our connection with the diocese, and Bishop Saint-Saric, it's his first time coming here, so it was great to have the opportunity to welcome him.
In Haiti, there is a great devotion to Our Lady in general, the Immaculate Conception, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Actually, there is a shrine to Our Lady of Mount Carmel in the north of Haiti, which attracts huge crowds every year.
We've had a lot of people, a lot of different people coming, and now we're taking it to the streets.
The Virgin is like the mother of everybody. So we always come to celebrate the feast of Mount Carmel.
It was very different, but it was very exciting because it just shows how diverse everyone can be and still come and believe in one faith.
We're from Haiti originally, so we were kind of surprised that the Father Saint-Saric was celebrating the Mass, so which makes it extra special for us.
Anything that we can do to promote the devotion to our Mother, to the Blessed Mother, is important, because she stands as really the model of a woman who was full of grace, and as we also must be open to receive God's grace. So when we look at Mary, we can see the effect of grace in a human heart.
Days and days of really beautiful celebrations, and you can always visit our website at currentsny.net to see all reports from the Feast of Giglio in Williamsburg and to catch up on any other Currents shows you may have missed. That's our show for tonight. We leave you with that amazing video of the statue of St. Paulinus as it is carried through the streets of Williamsburg on Giglio Sunday. Thank you for watching and have a good night.